Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to the Diversity is Lit book club discussion for A Song Below Water. There's only a couple of us right now. Diversity is Lit book club discussion. Oops, sorry, my video just came up. But we always like to kind of dress like the book. So we've got our blues and yellows, and the inside cover is actually pretty yellow. So so that's really fun. And then I also just took a shower so that my hair could be wet for appropriately this book. So some of our other co-hosts should be popping in, but if you're here, let us know in the comments. If you're watching the replay, let us know too. I'm okay too. I'm not too dark, am I, for my
You're good.
webcam? Okay, cool. So I'm Holly Davis, also known as WriteHollyDavis. I don't have all the co-host links down below. I just realized that. I need to do that. But I'll have my lovely co-hosts introduce themselves as they come in, and then we'll talk about this book. So Heather, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Heather Venkat, also known as Write Heather Venkat, or on Instagram, or Write Venkat on Twitter. I write YA and middle grade, fantasy and contemporary novels, hoping to be traditionally published in the near future.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about this book because I missed the last book club discussion. So,
right? That's
yes.
so true. Oh, Alicia, jazzed up.
Hello. Here I am. I made it just barely. Yay. So sorry about that, everybody. I was grabbing some dinner and I'm here, so I will not be in my normal theme this evening, which is really unfortunate because I had a really great outfit planned. But
that's
alas, here it is. Did you just tell me to go change? Holly, did you tell me to go change?
Oh, no, I said that's okay.
Oh, I thought you told me to go change. I was like, well, I don't really feel like I have the time to do that. So,
here.
So I'm Alicia Grumley, and my handle is writer Alicia Grumley on Instagram, and I'm one of Holly and Heather's lovely co-hosts, and I know Teresa and Vanessa are both supposed to be jumping on as well very soon. So I'm also excited to talk about this book because it's gonna be such a good conversation because it was so good. So good. Holly, did you give our Did you give our spoiler warning?
Oh, no, I didn't. Thank you. You're always the Slytherin is the one who is reminding people that we're going to be talking about spoilers. So thank you for that. There will be spoilers. So read the book and then watch this. Or if you don't care about spoilers, go ahead and keep watching. So we kind of have some questions that guide our discussion. So please feel free to put in your answers in the comments as well. Think about your own answers. So the first question that I always ask is, what are your general overall thoughts on the book? And so for me, this one was very interesting because it was very different from what I thought it was going to be. Because I thought it was like, I went into it expecting it to be like just straight up like fantasy, just completely fantasy. And it was more of an urban fantasy. And from reading it, it made me realize that I don't really read a lot of urban fantasy, which is totally okay. I just wasn't used to it because the fantastical elements and like real life were like meshing. And so there were some times where it was a little bit difficult for me to get into it because I'm like, well, there's all this stuff with the sirens and all these weird things happening, but then they're talking about prom, but like prom, why is prom important? And there's boy problems, but there's like this whole other issue going on. So it was kind of hard for me in that sense. But what kept me reading and what I loved about the book the most was just all of the parallels with like Black Lives Matter. And that kept me going because there were so many lines. Like, I can't even list when we get to like talking about our favorite quotes and lines. Like, I won't even be able to get to all of that. Oh, we have Vanessa here. Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa. Yay.
Oh, and Kristen too. Hi, Kristen. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Since you're here, Vanessa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Vanessa. I write YA fiction, fantasy, paranormal, and horror. I am on Instagram as author Vanessa Marie, and on YouTube as just Vanessa Marie. And yeah, that's
Nice. So we were just starting to go through the first question, which was like, what are your general overall thoughts on the book? So Kristen actually says, it was different than what I thought it'd be too. It was very woven together with the fantasy and contemporary urban vibes. Perfect for the social commentary aspect, though. Yes, perfect.
Did we talk about the fact that this was published this year? I don't know if I knew that going into it.
No, it was actually, this debuted the same week that A Song of Race and Ruin did.
Okay, so
it was like all around when that was happening.
Yeah.
So very relevant.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a shiny copy.
It's the library copy. That's why, because it's got that like protective like plastic thing on it, you know.
Got it.
Yeah,
that's like ooh, shiny things.
Yes, shady things. So, yeah, Holly was just finishing up what she was saying about like her first kind of initial thoughts. So.
Oh, yeah. So I guess I kind of wrap that up. The only other thing I had was that, you know, along with the parallels for Black Lives Matter, I also really liked that, like I really liked the part about like, you know, Tavia trying to find her voice, you know, the scenes with the protests and then the ASL, like there were so many kind of like, it was like all these external things happening, like tying into the internal arc. And so I just really liked that because you kind of had to dive deeper into like, what's this whole thing about her voice? So I really, really enjoyed that. Who wants to go next? Anyone free?
I'll go next. Yeah, I agree with you that I had the same type of reaction when I started reading it. I was like, well, I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't what I expected. I did really enjoy the dual POV and the book overall. There were a few times where I kind of got pulled out of the story, and I was trying to identify what it was. Part of me thinks it might have been because it was written in present tense. I I mostly read. I guess most of the fantasy that I've read is in past tense. I do listen to like Marie Lu. A lot of her books are written in present tense, but I'm mostly listening to that and not reading it. So at first I was like reading it and I was like, wait, what is this? Like, so maybe it's just like my personal preference of like past tense. I don't know. But I was just like really interested in this because I didn't really know about a lot of the kind of creatures that they had in the book. So like the Elocos, the Gorgon. I mean, we'll get into a lot more detail, I'm sure, about these as we go. But like, and even sirens, I'm like, I know of them, but I don't think I've really read a book about them. So I just thought that was really interesting to learn about, how can you like drop these like fantastical kind of characters into Portland? Like, what is this? This is so cool. Like, how can they fit in Portland and make it make sense? Like,
They keep Portland weird.
But yeah, I read it really fast, actually.
Vanessa, I want to hear what you have to say about this because I know you were so excited about this, and like I'm fine going too, but I would love to hear what you have to say and then build or add on to it.
Yeah, sure. So I really loved it. It was different than what I thought it would be, because of the whole when they said siren and it's modern fantasy. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit more fantasy, and we would see. And in my head, when I think sirens, I kind of think mermaids. So I was thinking, ooh, black mermaids. Which, in here, they do differentiate between sirens and mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was cool having all those different mythological creatures. I guess I just thought it would be a little bit more on the fantasy side, but it felt more contemporary with just like the magical creatures. But I still really enjoyed it. I do think, though, that I feel like some of the mythology could have been explained a little bit better because, and I know it was Alicia, I believe it was you that posted the article about the Alokos.
Yes.
And, I would have never known anything about the Alokos or that mythology if you hadn't posted that. So, and I felt like that was something that would have helped to be better explained in the book. But what's interesting, though, is I was watching the interview with the author. I actually watched 2 interviews that she did. And she was kind of talking about how the Locos mythology, she actually intentionally changed it a bit.
Okay.
So, because we were saying, I wonder how it's going to play out in this book. Because when I read the article, they were very like cannibalistic.
Yeah.
And but that's not the case here. But she intentionally changed that. So I thought that was kind of cool and interesting. Overall, I really liked it. I liked the writing style. I liked there's so many great quotes in here. So I'll wait till we get to the quote question.
Yeah. We have to skip to that one.
Yeah. So the Aloko mythology was obviously enough of an unknown that I went and posted that article, right? Because I have a very fair wide base of mythology, right? But as I was reading this, I think what I kind of came to understand, and I think this is another reason why I'm really glad to be in this book club, is because I have a really fair grasp of whitewashed mythology. I have a really fair grasp of Greek mythology, Roman mythology, I would even say some Celtic, Nordic, but guys, look at that. Like, that is all very whitewashed in origin, right? And I think the Alokos came from a Caribbean. I don't know if it said that in that article, but in my kind of research, I think it said it came from a Caribbean mythos. So that was really interesting to me. And I think that is going to be a very interesting companion story that's coming out next summer. The one about, how are we pronouncing her name? Naima? Naima?
Yeah, I think Naima.
Naima. Okay. So, I mean, I saw that cover and I knew right away. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Naima. Like, what is, and I didn't like her as a character, but I'm really interested to see what Bethany does with it, because as the author, she obviously thinks there's enough for her to have her own story there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be really interesting. And it'll be interesting to see if she does another dual POV or if she stays in her POV the most. So I might pick it up just to kind of see. And like I said, I really like the world that she's created. And I agree with all of the points that have been made, that it wasn't, I didn't know what I was expecting, but I don't think I was expecting a mostly land-based. That's what it is. I wasn't expecting a mostly land-based siren story, because like, and I mean, like, you know, like, again, right, like I'm familiar with sirens, right? Because that's a Greek myth, right? So like I got me some siren background, but like that's like women calling men to their death, right? Like, which I really like that, like kind of underlying, you know, that Slytherin side of me. I'm like, well, they probably deserved it, but it's not all men. I'm just saying the sirens might have had something that they needed to call them for. But so I agree. I really liked it. I really felt like it was kind of a seamless integration with the like urban fantasy and, you know, that like feel of the contemporary realism, everyday kind of feel, which I kind of like, because it's like magic's all around us if we know where to look, right? Like that's kind of always something that I believe and love. And it's nice to see somebody kind of take that and kaleidoscope tilt it a little bit. So I agree. I enjoyed it quite well. Yeah, I felt it was very relevant, and it definitely, for me as a white woman, made me think like, how can I be a better ally to, you know, like, because that's something that's one of the reasons why I'm in this book club, is because I want to be able to like highlight and pass the mic and do these things that matter, right? And I don't want to just be reading things and understanding mythos of cultures where I'm the star. You know what I mean? Like, there are people who look like white women are the star. Like, I don't want that to sound worse. It sounds bad, but please take it with good intention. Like, I want to be better. I want to learn and do more and unlearn and grow. And, you know, so it's just like hearing, because like for me, it's hard to, when anybody feels like their voice is being silenced. So like that part of things, like, and like when Tavia is like trying to silence herself, and then she's like, no, I'm not silencing myself, and we're not doing it. And like the silencing collars just made me want to like vomit, because I just hate people losing their voice. So yeah, it gave me a lot to think about. And I think it's going to be one of those things that I take with me, like where it's, because it's not a one and done process, right? Like it's something that I can always do better and grow and learn and, you know, be a better ally. So I think that's one of my really strong takeaways, is even though it was contemporary fiction with that urban fantasy twist, that it just felt so relevant to a lot of the things I'm concerned about in society right now.
Totally. Yeah. When you said allies, that made me think, I had written down like allies act. Like that's what I think Camila had said at protest. And it was like, I was like, I love that. It's not just in a black square and then doing nothing, you know, acting. So I loved that.
Yeah. And it's not just like being in the book club and talking about it, even though that's like relevant. It's like, okay, what can we as writers and, you know, people in this community do now? Because the holiday seasons are coming up, you know, like, okay, like, oh, maybe somebody gifted one of these books from our gift club, you know, or something like, or from our book club that we read, like, hey, you might really enjoy this story. So
I love that. Yeah. We're spreading the word and supporting Black authors and businesses and,
you
know, really quick, Michelle just posted in here about her newly released book series. Thank you for the recommendation. We'll be talking about A Song Below Water for right now. So we're giving Bethany all of our time. But Kristen says, I gave the book 4 stars officially because the social connections were so good. I did really like it. For my personal taste, it was more 3.5-ish stars, since I prefer more fantasy than contemporary. I think that's a fair assessment.
I feel like it was such an, oh, sorry, Holly, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, you can go.
I was just going to say, I feel like it was a really nice kind of next book to read after You Should See Me in a Crown, because that was so contemporary, you know, like that was straight up contemporary. And then so to come onto a little bit more of a fantasy side again was really nice, because we did some Wraith and Ruin, and we did Tristan Strong, and, you know, we did those like higher fantasies. So it's kind of nice to come into contemporary and to kind of go back up into fantasy a little bit. And So I feel like it's a really good fit for what we've done so far.
Yes. Yeah. I like the variety that we've had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go into our favorite parts of the book.
The whole thing. From page 9 until 286. How about that?
Okay, big specific, very specific. I loved the sisterly bond scenes because Tavia and Effie like weren't real sisters, but they just acted like if you didn't know, you would have just thought they were like real sisters. So I loved that. And especially the ending, like when they were just saying, I do anything for you. I told you you're my everything. And I was like, like ugly crying inside. And then just, I also really liked the wrap up of both Tavia and Effie's arc. So Tavia finding her voice and then Effie finding out like who she really was, like the Gorgon, and then like being able to accept that. So, it was a clear arc that we were able to see come full circle. So.
But it's also interesting when I think about knowing that second book is coming, because it's like, okay, we think that arc is complete, right? So are we going to get like backstory, or are we going to get like more of what's going on? And that makes me also wonder, like, is there more after that?
Before or after? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just, go ahead, Vanessa.
From what I've heard from author interview, she said that it's going to be name a story, but it's like it's still sequential. So it covers the events of this book. And I guess she wasn't really sure of like what term to give the book, but spin-off was one of the words they used. So I guess it's kind of like a spin-off. What's interesting is I'm now, after seeing that interview, I'm a lot more interested to read exploring Naima's story, because like you, I didn't like Naima either. But what was interesting was Bethany said the character she related most to is Naima. And so
that is interesting.
Wow.
That is so interesting.
That's crazy.
I think, like, because we're seeing it from Tavia and Effie's perspectives, and obviously they don't like her. So I think maybe there's a misunderstanding of her character. So I'm interested to see how she presents in her own story.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, go on, Alicia.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I think that like just some of those consequences, like, so knowing that it's sequential now, like knowing that there's probably going to be consequences because that network, the Aloco network that she's part of, that like is like the blanket cover for the siren. And she was like, I'm not part of your network anymore. And like, she like threw down and like drove away. And so I'm just like thinking there's going to be some consequences. And, we as readers, I think, always love seeing how characters deal with the consequences of their actions, right? Like, that's why we keep reading. Like, are they going to grow? Or are they going to stay the same? And if she's going to be the main character, she's obviously got to have a full arc. She's not going to be a flat arced character at that point, right? And for us in book 1, she definitely is. So I think that'll be super interesting. I was just going to say, one of my other like favorite parts or like aspects, I love how they communicated, Effie and Tavia communicated with American Sign Language so much. I've read one of Rick Riordan's series has a character that has ASL in it, and it's just such good representation to see. Representation matters always across the board. So I loved that was well done.
Nice. Yeah, I love that as well. And Kristen says, looking at Tavia's ally circle and how they reacted when things got real in the story. Whew, good for reflection. And the right mama popped in here, so we got to entertain.
We will.
Thanks for coming, Jenny. And Kristen says Naima's story. I'll let you talk, Heather. I know you have things to say, but Kristen said Naima's story interests me because I want to know what goes on in that girl's head. The synopsis made it sound really interesting as a follow-up spinoff.
I'll read it with you, KK. I'll read it. We'll read it together.
Heather, what about you?
Yeah, just kind of, I know we still need to talk about the characters, but just kind of going off of what Vanessa said, I didn't like Naima, but I understood why she was reacting the way that she did, because I did get a sense that like they were jealous of her a little bit, and and she was saying that she doesn't want to get involved in the drama. Like Tavia's like asking for her help, and she's like, I just can't get into that drama. So like maybe there's some things that she's experienced in the past or her home life, like she already has enough drama and things that she's dealing with, that she just is sort of like kind of going off on her own, and so it kind of seems more rude. But I was trying to understand her. But the scenes for me, yeah, I did really enjoy the sisterly bond. The scenes that kind of stood out for me were the protests. You know, they were said they were going to go to the Renaissance Fair, and they went to the protest instead. And then when Camila outed herself as a siren, that was very unexpected. But I appreciated that because it's like, you know, she's using her platform and almost like her celebrity to help like get the message out.
Nice.
And so I thought that was one of the powerful scenes, obviously. And then, you know, and then they collared her, and I was like, no, why? So I felt the same way Alicia with the like silencing is just very like, and then the other thing that I kind of had like, because they revisited it over and over again, sort of more like in the memory aspect, but also like when Effie was playing Red Rover with her friends, and then they turned to stone in the park, like they kind of
Did we lose her?
like these creepy vibes, like Red Rover, Red Rover. I don't know. It's just like,
maybe
it's because Halloween is coming up, and I just like picture, like, you can imagine this little girl, she's like traumatized because her friends turned to stone, and I'm just like,
yeah,
wow, what a
no, it's creepy, right? And the sprites are creepy. They're not like benevolent characters. You know, they're mischievous, but they get away with it because nobody can really do anything to stop them. So I think that's a accurate like vibe that you're almost supposed to get from that scene. Like it's not normal. It's creepy. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like
they're like the Red Rover, send Effie on over, and there were 5, not 4, and so they're like, find her. What is that? That creeped me out too.
Yeah, and like, you know, but I mean, if you kind of look at like sprites like in literature, right? So Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream, Puck is just, he's mischief, he's sprite, he's fairy, you know, like, so that fits with that, you know, understanding of that. And like it's like that whole fae stuff, you know, with the changeling child. I had wondered maybe if Effie was a changeling too at one point. I was like, oh, is she a changeling child? Because
I had no idea.
I knew there was a Medusa connection. There were so many like snake like references, like with the skin peeling and just the like that motif. Bethany ran that motif of serpentine feel very well throughout the thing. I had it marked 2 or 3 times in my notes. I'm like, Medusa, is there some Medusa connection? Is there some Medusa? And then I was like, didn't I already write this? So like I went back and had to find it. So I think she ran that motif very well.
Yeah, I like that.
Turn in the stone, that made me think Medusa.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the whole stone stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen said Tavia and Effie's sisterhood was the best part of the book for me. I loved them together. Yay.
Yay.
And Effie's entire journey to figure out who/what she was, so intriguing. It kept me hooked, especially all the sprite turning to stone business. Yeah. And I never guessed Gorgon, you know.
Well, I had to look that up because I was like, Gorgon, like, what is that? So Medusa was a Gorgon. There were all like, there's like a group of Gorgon sisters type thing. So it's like not all Gorgons are Medusa. Medusa is like a very specific Gorgon.
Got it.
Because I was like,
that confused me because they didn't really explain it.
Yeah, I was like, Gorgon is Gorgon. I'm like, what's Medusa? I just like Googled. I'm like, is Medusa a Gorgon? Is Gorgon a Medusa? Like, and so it came up that there was a group of, I can't remember how many, but they were like, it might have been 3 in mythology originally, and Medusa was one of the 3 sisters. So.
Oh, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that sort of kind of segues into our least favorite. What was your least favorite scene, if any? Okay, so I had 2. One was when Tavia was peeling the skin off Effie while she was sleeping, because I thought that was so weird because we didn't know what was going on, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? This is so weird. So I just was like creeped out by it because like we didn't get it until the end. So in the moment you're like, what the fuck is happening? So that one, and then the other one was actually when Tavia turned Naima into stone. I was like really shocked by it. I felt like I was like, whoa, like she's supposed to be the hero, and she's just like, even if she doesn't like Naima, I was like shocked that she did that. And so it like threw me off, and I was like, I didn't like that she did that. Like,
well, I actually thought that was very, I felt like it was very realistic, because I feel like a lot, you know, when we see the main characters as heroes and stuff, a lot of times you're thinking like, you know, they're gonna take the high road, they're gonna do this and that. And when they do something like what she did, I was like, well, you know, I probably would have done the same exact thing. So I felt like that was real for me at that moment.
yeah.
It took me back, but I like settled into it very quickly. And part of that is because I'm an Enneagram 8, and one of the big characteristics of an 8 is like this desire to protect the people you love. Okay. So like for me, it was like she did that to Naima first, and I was like, oh, I can't believe she did that. And I went, yes, I can, because she's protecting Effie. And I'm like, my bestie, who's my like Effie, like it would have been 0. Like I wouldn't have thought about it, because I would have done whatever it took to protect my girl, you know? And so like, I kind of agree with Vanessa, like, and we've got to remember they're only like 17. So their frontal lobe is totally underdeveloped. They don't know nothing about the world. They don't know how to like process, you know? So like that 17-year-old girl is kind of like, oh, well, it seems fine. And she's like, I've got to protect my sister somehow. And she did, you know, she did have to protect her sister. Like, we have a problem on our hands, and she can change it. And so she did. So I was taken aback, but settled into it quickly.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Kristen said it was like, whoa, but a very human reaction in an intense moment. Yeah. And then Tavia making Effie turn Naima to stone, which also made it like, whoa.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that was the part I was more like upset about, was that she did that to Effie. But it was like, if Effie didn't remember what was happening anyway, but she kind of did, you know, like, so it was like, oh, like that. Like, but I think that's a good thing to see, because it gives a little bit more validity to the things her dad had been worried about, and like the way that people were worried about sirens all throughout the book. So it was kind of good to have her do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, for me, I don't know why, but I didn't really like the scenes with the gargoyle. And now we know who the gargoyle is. But in the very beginning, like, I mean, we don't know who the gargoyle is until, I don't know, what was it, like 90% of the way into the book or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
a while.
So I was just like, what the heck is going on with this gargoyle? Like, it was frustrating me because it seemed pointless. Like, okay, just sitting there, and it's like, oh, but, you know, we think like it's here to protect them. But I was like, but it's not really protecting. It's not doing anything. So I was just, I mean, you know, so it made sense later, but while I was reading it, like, I was just like, I didn't like it because I wanted the answers. And I felt like they, I honestly feel like she didn't really give us too many hints. It was mostly just like a mic drop, like, this is who the gargoyle is. Like, maybe other people picked up on it, but like, I did not. At first, they said, or at first I was thinking, because they were like, oh, maybe it's like Effie's dad, but then you find out it's Wallace, right?
Mhm.
And so at first I thought, okay, it would kind of make sense as like him being the guardian if it were her dad, but then it ended up not being that. And then I was just like super confused, because then I felt like her interactions with him outside of when he was a gargoyle were just like kind of, I mean, you could tell they liked each other, but they were kind of awkward around each other. And but to me, I wasn't a huge fan at all. It was a little too random for me.
So when I didn't realize that Wallace was the gargoyle, okay, but I did suspect very early on that Effie was the gargoyle's charge. I was like, yeah, I was like, no, it's not Tavia. It's not. And yeah, I don't even know if I could pinpoint something about it, but it was just like, I was like, no, Effie is the gargoyle's charge. But so Heather, like, I kind of agree. Like, it kind of like took that like Wallace out of it almost. But then when you look at those interactions with Naima and Wallace, right? And Wallace is always like, hey, do you need to go? Like, do you want to leave? Like, I can see him trying to protect her even as a human, but I was still taken aback by, like, I was like, oh, Wallace is the okay, here we are. But I kind of like the gargoyle, and I kind of like that Tavia and the gargoyle had that nice kind of relationship that they had happened. And, you know, like, I think at one point Tavia even says that like he's her friend, and like, you know, and like, because he's the only person that was able to get her to her grandma. And
True.
So like they're going to be good friends, you know, for a long time. And even if Effie's living below the water with her dad, which, what in the heck, man? What in the heck? So
yeah. Kristen says I had my suspicions that Wallace was the gargoyle. Effie thinking it was her dad threw me when we got to that point, though. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, no, Effie, he's not your dad. Get over that. Like, I agree. I was like, I was not here for that. I was like, no, he's not your dad. I don't know who he is, but he's not your dad. Like, it just, I think it maybe had something to do with the fact that because Effie and Tavia's dad had that kind of like dad banter, daughter banter relationship. And it was really hard for Tavia to watch because she wanted it so desperately and didn't think she would ever have it. But I don't think that like another mythological creature dad would like sit there and watch his daughter do like father-daughter things when, I mean, her dad's been wanting her back the whole time. You know what I mean? So
right.
I'm like, I'm not about that. I was like, Effie, you're wrong on this, girlfriend. I don't know what you're thinking. You're wrong.
So let's go into our favorite and least favorite character, and then we'll go into quotes and lines. Does anyone else want to go first? Because I accidentally have started to answer questions first. So.
I mean, I think we all know who my least favorite character was. It was Naima. But if it was Naima, raise your hands.
So I do have one thing to say about Naima, though, is she did have like, well, one redeeming part that I noticed.
Was it the hair?
Yes.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that. Yes.
What? She's doing something nice, and I had to like reread it. I'm like, wait, is she the one saying this? I'm like, it is.
I don't think it was so much that she was being nice. I think it was more of a like, you can't do that culturally across the board. So she was speaking for, you know, everybody in the region. Like, don't.
Like when I think it was Jamie was asking, is that all your hair? It's like, girl, no, don't ask questions like that. So
right, like, yeah. So because it wasn't just like, don't ask Effie questions like that.
Yeah,
it was don't ask questions like that. So, but I agree, that was her one. Like, okay, maybe she's with it a little bit.
You just had the one little thing. And now your favorite. Well, who would you say?
I don't know. Somebody else answer while I think through that.
I would say, oh, go on, Vanessa.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not sure because I like both Tavia and Effie's.
Is it Tavia, Vanessa? Is that how Bethany said her name, Tavia?
Yeah, because she named her after Octavia Butler.
Got it. Okay, so I was saying Tavia.
Oh, I love that.
I forgot to watch that interview. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch it right now. And then I was like, crap, I forgot.
I love that. So cute.
I like Tavia and Effie's characters. So I don't know. I was in the beginning a bit more interested in Tavia's story, but then when we started getting these things about Effie, that like her skin changing and all these things, and her wondering who she is and where she came from, I really got into that storyline as well. And so I really like both of their characters. I also like Wallace. I will. I'm gonna get into a quote right now because this is kind of what made me go, yes, Wallace. When they are talking about what it's like to be Black in America, and he says, it's about not letting being Black in America be in it's yeah, I can't talk right now. It's not letting being Black in America an executionable offense. There we go. I can't talk right now. And then he says, Black Lives Matter. Everybody knows that. And then Effie, I think she responds, I mean, I don't know about everyone. And then he says, no, they know. They just pretend they don't get it, but they have to admit they don't agree. And I was preach. Well,
powerful. I remember that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
love it.
So those were the characters I really like. I kind of have mixed feelings about the dad. Because I'm like, I get why, he did, like, why he tried to, keep Tavia from being herself, really, is what it was. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, but you're her parent. You're supposed to be the most encouraging one, which obviously that doesn't always happen. And so, I mean, I understand his character, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about you.
Yeah, I agree.
I really liked Effie's grandpa, actually, because he was just that calm voice of reason all throughout. And he, like, unlocked the door for her and he made sure she got to prom. And, like, I just love that because, like, I'm having a really hard time picking between Tavia and Effie because they're just kind of two sides of the same coin, right? Which I think Bethany did purposefully, right? They're sisters. They're like two sides of the same coin. They need each other. They are foils for each other, right? So I'm having a really hard time, like, saying, like, yes, no, Effie, Tavia. I don't know if I could. But I did really like Effie's grandpa, and I kind of liked Effie's sassy grandma too. I thought she was so
Granny
funny.
Papa.
Oh. I was gonna say, what is it? What's her name? Like Mama Theo, yeah, Mama Theo, and but I'm also interested in Effie's mom's background because she said so many times, like, she didn't raise her, but or she wasn't her mom, but she raised her, you know, like something like that. So I'm wondering if, like, she was adopted and, like, all of that stuff too. So
yeah,
I would love to see if we get more of that in that second story. Like, as we learn, I'm hoping we learn more about the network in that second story because I think that that's very interesting. That network of allies and how they came to be and why they came to be needed, and, you know, so I think that that'd be really interesting to see. But yeah, I loved her grandpa because he was just so, and she was like, he gave me these one-liners and I wished it was as simple as he made it. Like, so I liked it.
that gave a good balance with, like,
with Mama Theo's sass is what he wants. If I ever get married, that's going to be the kind of man I need. Somebody who just is like deals with my sass.
And, like, he seemed to be pretty chill. Like, because there's one line that I took that she says, I've always wished life were as easy as Papa makes it sound. Now I'm starting to think there's just a lot he doesn't know. You know, I love that line because it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're not aware of it, you're like, everything's great. No problems here. And I just love that attitude. It's like, I just love that line. But I actually I right away was drawn to Tavia. Sorry, Tavia. Okay, Tavia. Because of the fact, and I guess this might be a weird reason, but because of the fact that she struggled with her own powers. Like, at first it took me a while to, like, remember, okay, her, like, appeal, the compel, and then, like, awaken. Like, she had the different like the different ways that the power or the song affected people. But one of the things that struck me was, like, that scene where she's like, she's been awakened, whatever that means. I've used the call again, the one that seems more specific than the others, as though the target has to be called by name or else directly in the line of fire, as though it has to be meant for the receiver. Whichever is true, this call I don't quite understand has done something to her. And it's like, you know, I could relate to that because it's like, yeah, even if you maybe have, like, I don't know, just like you don't feel like you have all of the answers, even with, like, to me, I feel like she should know exactly what these powers do, but
nobody
I
taught her. But
right,
nobody
I could relate to her in the fact that, like, even she is struggling with, like, who she is and the powers that she has. You know, I mean, and the fact that she, like, joined the choir, it's like, okay, if she's so afraid to use her voice sometimes that when she was a kid she, like, put a belt around her neck and she's trying to overcome that fear, but she struggles with using sign language too sometimes because she feels bad about doing that. Like, I really liked the fact that she wasn't perfect. You know, she had her struggles and she had her issues, that she wasn't that, like, perfect character who's like super powerful and makes all the right decisions, knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody wants to read that character anyway, right? Like,
That's not what we came here for.
Nope.
no, I came here for your struggle. You know, I came here for your growth. Like,
Right.
get out of your perfection. It's fake anyway. It's fake anyway. So I want to watch that perfection unravel for sure.
So Kristen said favorite character is probably Effie. I felt like I connected more with her overall, even though the using your voice thing with Tavia is a storyline that always resonates with me. And I really loved Wallace. And then Effie's grandpa was amazing. I loved his support of Effie while also 100% supporting his wife when all the prom being locked in stuff was going down. Yeah. He was underrated. I didn't realize how great he really was. For me, I probably resonated more with Tavia's story a little bit more over Effie's. Just because, so this nicely segues into like the quotes, because I felt like there was a lot of things that she said that that like resonated with me, that like made me stop, and I'm like, like just, and I think too also with the midpoint being finding out that Rhoda's killer wasn't charged with murder. So I felt like that's like, I was just really, really drawn to her because I saw those parallels, you know, and I was, I felt for her in that sense. And even like, there were just lines where she just like broke my heart. Like when she was saying, I don't want Dad to love Effie more than me, you know, because he hates sirens. And so, I'm trying to think. I have so many other quotes. Oh my God, this is bad. And even just like Effie asking, what happened? What'd you do? And she's like, nothing. I was driving while black. And so just like, it's just like, there's just so many parts that just like, and then the one line she said that made me, that I was like, oh, I feel like I could say this line, but she was like, it was suffocating being surrounded by people and hiding from them at the same time. And I was like, I feel you, girl. Hi. So that's, oh, hi, Haley, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hey.
So those were a couple lines that really stuck out to me.
That scene with when Tavia gets pulled over, I feel like I was literally cringing. I was so nervous and anxious for her. And I was like,
oh, I can't hear. Wait, can you guys hear?
Just kind of fading in and out a little bit.
Sorry.
Well, I was just saying I was super nervous for Tavia at that point, that scene. And I was like, I knew it was going to happen, but I was like, don't do it, don't use your voice. And I was like super nervous for her then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an intense scene for sure.
I had to stop reading that scene for a minute because I was so nervous, and with some of my unlearning, relearning things that I'm doing, like I'm definitely more aware of cops pulling people over right now. And so I'm just kind of like watching that, but I was like, I didn't know what I was getting into. I'm like, am I going to be reading a police brutality scene here? Like, are they going to like, I figured they were going to harass her, and I figured they were going to harass her because she was black, but I was like, what's going to happen here? So I had to like kind of like pause there, even though I was very interested in the story and very engaged, and I was just like nervous. I'm like, oh, like I have to like kind of step back away from that a little bit and be like, which is like a total privilege, right? For me to be able to step back away from that and say like, I'm really scared about this. Like, what's going to happen? And I was just like very nervous for her. So yes, I was also nervous for her, Vanessa, and I didn't know what would happen. I think one of my quotes that I really liked was on What page am I on? I'm on page 190. And it's talking about what is Kenyon Jones. It's talking about Kenyon. And just kind of about midway on the page, he looks like someone young enough for his murder to disrupt the national news. Someone whose death could not possibly go unanswered. And because we're here, it won't. Today, the rules don't apply, and the street belongs to him because we weren't dissuaded by the photos circulated on the TV screens. We don't think his low-slung jeans and shirtless brown skin cancel out his right to jaywalk without a death sentence.
Ugh.
Any industry in a society like ours is set up to make the marginalized feel grateful just for the chance to do something in a way that sort of preys on you and takes advantage of you.
Talking.
I was like, what's happening? I was like, why is this? But it was saying very important things. I was like,
who's throwing their voice? I was like,
was that Bethany's? Was that her interview? One of the interviews?
Yeah, I still had it open. I was like, wait.
No, that was like perfect timing though. Because it talked like that was like perfect timing, you know, like it was talking about that.
We stopped and all listened.
Yeah.
Her voice stopped us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of my quotes were related to those scenes. And I apologize, I didn't write down what page number or even, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Tavia who was saying this, but she had said, there's one line where she said, "I'm not a monster because I live in a world that gives me impossible choices," which really hit me. And then this one is a little bit more random. It was when they were speaking about, you know, loss, you know, like Effie losing her parents and that kind of thing. And I guess the doctor's name was Dr. Randall, but it said he told her that grief can be cyclical. Years pass and you travel around the circle thinking you've left the hard part behind until you get back around and it knocks you down again. Time does not heal all wounds. I almost touched the keloid on my neck. I don't know if time heals any. And that like really resonated with me because it's like, yeah, that was powerful for me.
I remember stopping at that part too, Heather. That like just like being like, yeah, like oof. Yeah.
Any other?
I mean, I think that one that we all like that Vanessa posted at the very beginning on page 31. Vanessa, you posted it. It was like the first one you posted in the group from this story about the cross-cultural empathy without cultural competency. Was to say is the, but I can't find it here real quick. I mean, I know it's on 31 because that's where what I wrote down in my notes, but
there's no such thing as cross-cultural empathy without cultural competency.
I actually really loved her teacher too. I thought he was like, well, we haven't talked about him, but I thought he was doing good things with the time that he had.
Definitely. Yeah.
There were a lot of side and secondary characters, actually, that you know show up from time to time, which I thought was really good. There was one character named Sarah who she said was pronounced weirdly, but then didn't say how it was pronounced. I was like, is it Sarah or it's like I don't know. It's like I'm just making up the weird pronunciation.
Okay. But I love that she's got a side character friend, Altruism, aka Allie. Oh, yes, just like so good. I felt like that was such a like, and I've never been to Portland, but I feel like that really fits with every image I have of Portland. Like, people naming their kids Altruism Allie. And then there's like 3 Jennifers.
Thanks, Mickey.
This is funny.
So, any last minute thoughts as we wrap up?
I was looking for some of the other quotes, because I know I underlined a lot of them. And I think we've already touched on some of them. We went through that one. This was another one. It's in the beginning where it's like page 29. Yeah. It says, now the consensus is clear. The world is better off if we're silent. And if the system skews towards making that happen, if Rhoda Taylor's just another in a long list of victims whose pain or death seems justified by her identity, well, everybody's safer for it. And that I kind of marked up and underlined.
Yeah, I had that quote too. That really stuck out.
Just made me think of, how she says, well, everybody's safer for it. And I thought, well, everybody except for the silence, of course. And, it just kind of reminds me of just the Black Lives Matter movement and how, there's sometimes this pushback of, people wanting to say all lives matter. Well, can all lives matter if Black lives don't matter?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yep. Yeah.
I think there was a quote on 118 too that I liked but didn't. And I'll explain that after I read it. It's just the last part of the sentence on the top of 118. Whenever the Black residents of Portland come together, the only ones who seem to stand for Black girls are Black girls. And I just was like, this is not the world I want, and that's what I mean by saying, like, there's so many things that I think can be taken away from this and applied on a grander scale to my life. So, like, I don't want that to be the case, I don't want my women of color friends to feel like the only people standing up for them, the only people voting in women of color interests, the only people representing women of color at a doctor's appointment are women of color. Like, that's not who I want to be. So I don't know. It was like, ooh, like it woke me up a little bit more, but it also like hurt a little bit. Like, I hate that that's a stereotype for a reason. Like there's like that kind of double-edged sword. Like stereotypes kind of come about because you see a pattern, right? And I just don't want to feed into that pattern.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm glad that we read this book because it was so powerful. The quote at the front by Danielle Clayton says, "An enthralling tale of Black girl magic and searing social commentary ready to rattle the bones." And I think that's what it did.
Yep.
Is that where's that? Which one is that?
The front quote.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, and all of the back ones are so good too. Timely, necessary, and utterly captivating by Akime Dawn Bowman.
Yes. So, thank you guys for joining me for another book club discussion.
Teresa, we missed you. We hope you're okay, and we'll see you soon.
Yes. And next month, we are reading. Yes, I got it today.
I knew you would, probably. Did you get that? Yes, they're so beautiful, you guys. So this is what we picked. This is what we voted on. Midnight Indigo.
Stories by Black women writers. So I'm super excited to see all the different stories and see which ones we like and how we're going to go about the book discussion. But I'm excited to read this.
Yes. And for anybody that hasn't gotten their copy yet, it looks like I haven't started reading it yet, but it looks like most of the stories in here are like 10 pages or under. But like I was expecting this to be more like a magazine. So when it came and it was this beautiful book, I was like, oh, what joy has come to my life. And then like if you pre-order, now mind you, it goes on sale officially on Halloween. So you've only got like a day and a half to make this happen. But you get this little, I don't know if everybody does, but I got this cute little note. Yeah, from the editor who created Midnight and Indigo, which is the company that puts out this is like their publication. So this is like their third issue, I think, or more than that. But this is like the speculative issue. So you get a little card from the editor. So like, I don't know, that makes it even better because we're supporting things that matter. So get your copies.
Yes, I'm a little scared. Some of the stories sound creepy.
Yeah, lights on, KK. Read them with the lights on.
Yeah. I need to check the mail and see if my copy came in because I did pre-order it. So I'm excited.
So a lot of times for this, we wanted to have the discussion before Halloween, before NaNoWriMo. But this one, maybe we will do at the beginning of December.
Yeah, that might be good. We might need to do that.
Nano Strong. So thanks everyone for joining. And please, please, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and the Facebook page so you can vote for the next for December's book. And you guys are all free to post, any BIPOC information and stuff. So people have been doing that. Vanessa, Alicia. So I've really been loving the interaction in the group lately. So thanks, girls, for that. And Kristen says she just won't read right before bed.
Lights on, KK. Lights on.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.